This video is going to talk about basic question making in French. So there's three basic ways to make questions in French. There's intonation, there is inversion, and there is using est-ce. So our first way is using intonation that we're going to talk about. Using intonation means you're going to make your voice rise up at the end of the sentence, and that makes it into a question. So let's do some examples here. So we've got some sentences. Il va au cinéma. Tu es grand. Nous sommes petits. Now these are all things that could be a regular sentence if you put a period at the end, but you can make them into a question in French by adding a question mark. Right? That's the easy way to do it in writing. Now, when you're speaking, though, you need to make sure that you're using intonation. That means you're going to make your voice go up at the end. So instead of il va au cinéma, il va au cinéma. Instead of tu es grand, tu es grand. And instead of nous sommes petits, nous sommes petits. So that's our first way, using intonation. It's a very easy way to make a question in French. You just take a statement, put a question mark on the end of it, and when you're speaking, use intonation and make your voice rise at the end. Our second way of making a question in French is using inversion. Using inversion means we're going to change the order of the subject and the verb. We're going to invert them, and then we put a question mark on the end. So let's look at how we do this. So for our question, our first statement, il va au cinéma, becomes va-t-il au cinéma? Now you don't need, because you have used this inversion, you do not need to make your voice rise at the end in order to make a question. Now, using this example has brought out another way in inversion. If you have a verb followed by a subject, both the end and the beginning are a vowel, you must insert a hyphen, T hyphen, into the middle of this. You can't see that extremely well here. So let me make it a little bit more clear. Va-t-il au cinéma. Because you cannot in French have va-il au cinéma, because it sounds bad. So you have this consonant sound, va-t-il au cinéma. Let's do the next one. Tu es grand. Make it into a sentence, use an inversion, becomes es-tu grand. Notice the sentence in a consonant starts with a consonant, so you do not need the T hyphen in this one, okay, because it's using the consonants. Again, inversion, put the verb in front, subject comes next, and that makes it into a question. Instead of you are tall, are you tall? Our last one, nous sommes petits. We are going to use inversion. Sommes nous petits? Now, the thing that you always have to remember when you're making inversion, when you're doing inversion, is that because the verb comes first, you need to have a hyphen in between the verb and the subject. Always when you're doing inversion. You always have to have this hyphen in the middle. You can't just go sommes nous petits and not have a hyphen. It's got to have the hyphen because it goes against normal sentence structure. So you have to have the hyphen here to make it an inverted question, a question using inversion. So that's our second way. We've done using intonation, doing inversion, and now we're going to talk about using est-ce. So now let's use est-ce to make our third way of doing questions in French. So using est-ce, the est-ce phrase comes at the front of the question. So our phrase is est-ce que. All right, it looks like that. Est-ce que il va au cinéma? Now, if you'll notice right here, you've got this vowel followed by this vowel. You can't have that in French. So what we do is we come up here, we take off the E. I'm going to erase the Q to U too. But take off the E, QU, apostrophe, il va au cinéma. So normally this is going to be a lot closer. So let me write it a little bit closer. Because you're making a conjunction out of these two. So it's est-ce qu'il va au cinéma. Let's do our next one. Tu es grand, put est-ce que in front of it. Est-ce que tu es grand? Now it's a question. And the last one. Est-ce que nous sommes petits? Kind of can't see all of that one. Petit right there. Okay. So, est-ce que nous sommes petits? So that's our third way of making a question in French. We've got putting a question mark using intonation, using inversion, and putting in the question word est-ce que into the sentence at the beginning. So these are the most simple ways, the easiest ways. I haven't talked about using a question word in here yet. So let's do a few examples using taking some question words into our questions. So for this part, using question words, we have to start out with a question already. So we've got il est comment, il va quand, il est d'où. We recognize our question words that I've gone over in another video. Comment, quand, and d'où. So how can we write these questions differently to say the same thing? So, il est comment. First way that we're going to do this is we're going to write it using inversion. It becomes, when we use inversion, you must put the question word first. So it becomes comment est-il? Remembering that since we're using inversion, we have to have the hyphen in between the verb and the subject. Rewriting il va quand, quand va-t-il? Again, we remember the rule that I just went over, talking about if you've got two vowels next to each other in French, you have to put a hyphen T hyphen in between them using inversion. And our last one, d'où est-il? So now we've got two ways of each of these questions written. We've got our intonation, which is just using our question mark, and then we've got our inversion. And we remember with inversion, the question word has to come first in the question. Now we need to write it our third way. So our third way is using est-ce que. Now, est-ce que must come after the question word. All right, if the question word is not going to be at the end of the sentence, it has to be at the beginning, and it still has to be in the beginning if we use est-ce que. So our question would be here, comment est-ce que comment est-ce qu'il est? We remember that when we use esca, we just keep it as a regular sentence in the regular order. So it becomes como es qu'il est. So all we're doing is we move the question word to the front, we insert esca, and then we have the rest of the question. For second one, okay, il va quand? Quand est-ce qu'il va? Again, we move the question word to the beginning. We put esca in front of this, and we have to make a conjunction because we've got the two vowels that are next to each other right there. And our last one, il est du. Du. Est-ce qu'il est? Again, we have our question word at the beginning, esca, then the rest of our question. So these are the three ways, the three different ways that you can make questions simply in French. If you have questions about this, you're always free to ask me before, during, or after class. You can also submit a comment for this video asking certain questions. Maybe there's things that I missed, things that you'd like to know. Feel free to do that. You can also email me. And so I will see you in class.